scan the QR code if you'd like access to the slides and references I'm using for later use, including some embedded links that I won't get to during this presentation. My name is Anthony. I'm a music education PhD student, a longtime jazz musician, and I've performed in many churches. This photo of me here is actually in a church. I'm also an educator who writes curricula, and I was raised Catholic, but not really. The diamond at the bottom of the screen is the Jehovah's Witness symbol. I do have some experience with them. One of my best friends is a Jehovah's Witness. I also have some experience with Protestant, Buddhist, and evangelical musicians, and I have friends who are in the faith as well. First, I'd like to define what a religious education is. Has anyone here had experience with any of the faiths that are shown on this wheel here? Okay. Well, if you're not familiar with the religious curriculum, your thought might immediately jump to something like Sunday school, where you work on memorizing religious texts, which does exist. But I'd like to show you some examples from schools so that you can see that there's actually much more to it than that. The Episcopal school curriculum at the top has a large social justice and communal focus. They integrate DEI, service learning alongside their academics. Liberty University has a strong focus on teaching, research, and information literacy. Banaras Hindu University is officially Hindu-affiliated school that uses the Bhagavad Gita as a moral guide. Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual poem that translates roughly into Song of God, coincidentally. They offer bachelor's degrees in research, engineering, medicine, music and arts, agriculture. The Brandeis Jewish Research University offers undergraduate degrees that focus on quantitative research, particularly in the Jewish community, using statistical data. The Islamic City of Knowledge School does a Montessori-style program that's self-directed with collaborative and hands-on activities in coding, healthcare, science. They also boast about providing an education level that's among the best private schools in Georgia. The K-12 school at the bottom, the Christian one, puts its focus on critical thinking. And there's an asterisk there for one of the main differences in religious schools as compared to the other curricula, and that is religious curricula simply focus on religious messages in their moral reasoning and value statements. And of course, there are different levels to this. If you do have access to the slides, you can click on the bottom link there for a school's opinion article on the difference. In their case, they focus on being Christ-like rather than perhaps a conservative private school or a liberal arts academy, etc. As Gandhi reminded us, literacy in itself is no education. We need to embrace the whole person in our curriculum. Remember, religion is part of DEI, and if you're on the slides page, you can click on the religion wheel for some examples of primary school teaching and tolerance tools for different religions. Nielsen and Small gave us these 4 pillars for support through religious education, and you can skim over a list of some of the key concepts right here. There's a high focus on relationships, both outward and inward, holistic growth, oversight, and ethics and morals throughout the entire scaffolding. These techniques have been refined over millennia, and like private schools, religious schools emphasize choice while keeping their degree requirements similar to the other programs. This quote at the bottom represents a Christian idea when discussing conviction, acknowledging and embracing the idea of peer review while allowing space for diversity and diplomacy when pursuing these 4 pillars of faith. Here I compared the religious curricula with the UNCG Minerva curriculum. The ideals in the center are those that were explicitly stated as written in learning philosophies from both the Minerva and Christian schools, but you might be noticing a few more that could be applicable to both. In comparing the results of religious curricula, these are the data from the National Association of Educational Progress, or NAEP, also known as the Nation's Report Card. In reports from post-COVID test scores, you can see in the top graph that Catholic schools did well compared to public schools in 4th and 8th grade math and reading. If we break those statistics down further, on the bottom here in yellow, it shows that Catholic school scores also managed to decline less than others post-pandemic. Catholic secondary schools also had higher average scores. That little bullet there was from 2016 SAT tests, and Catholic primary schools were near the top in learning outcomes for free and reduced lunch students. And this was done through what they call their core competency-based curriculum with clear and enforced expectations, and that approach is also a hallmark of Catholic education as a whole. Now I'd like to make this a little relatable through a personal story. Has anyone here ever performed in a church, or perhaps even started out in music, doing with a religious community? So maybe you can relate then. These are some benefits that came to me from my time gigging at churches when I moved to Tampa, Florida for my first master's degree. I think of it in concentric circles. So I started off playing saxophone in the churches there, and then through doing that, I met the leader of the gospel-trained big band, which is the top picture on there. They took church songs and they arranged them for big band, and there's a link to one of the tunes embedded in that picture as well. Relationships that I made there led to my performances with the Jazz Legacy big man, whose creator was also the leader of the famous Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, and I performed with him for some Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks series concerts. And you can see Dave in the green tie on the bottom picture there. My point in this story is connecting it to the religious pillars and curricular strategies that we've been exploring through an experience that stemmed from the church music stream's, quote, professional curriculum, if you will. I gained things like opportunity and education in gigging, recording, even acquiring other clients and students, how to network in the community, building connections and a sense of purpose, tact when interacting socially, a sense of responsibility, mutual support, inspiration from my colleagues, importantly, spiritual wellness and joy. I learned dependability, accountability, stability in schedule, and even income through Sunday gigs, and even things like access to rehearsal space. As taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, education is largely about connecting the individual to society. And of course, this could have been any religious style or musical style. To help sum this up, The Art of Peace is a spiritual book about self-control and conflict management that reminds us education is supposed to open our spirit. The ways that religious school curricula do this are through, first of all, excellent performance academically, extracurricularly, and in the industry, gospel music, for instance, through comparable standards and class offerings, structure, development, and outcomes, focus on community, which unfortunately is on the wayside at many schools, even after schooling, but the religious school curriculum helps build strong, lifelong connections. And lastly, an overall sense of holistic growth through innovation, spirituality, ethical alignment, and grounding, which I think all of us could really use at some point in our careers at least. A few final questions we can ask ourselves when choosing these curricula. Am I getting results that I need? Am I building relationships and community? Do I feel in line with my mind, body, and soul? And as the Buddha suggests, do I feel fulfilled in both my work and my life?
Wow.
Thank you.
Right on time.